The key wouldn't turn. Sarah Miller stood on her own front porch at 9:47 p.m., her son Evan pressed against her side, and the key wouldn't turn because someone had changed the lock. On her house, the house she'd been paying for since her divorce 3 years ago. She knocked. Hard. Then harder. The door opened, and a man she'd never seen before stood there, mid-30s, stained shirt, eyes flat and cold. "Can I help you?" he said. "This is my house," Sarah said, her voice shaking. "You need to leave. Right now." The man smiled. "Lady, I've been living here for 2 weeks. You got proof you own it?" Yes, I have the deed, the mortgage papers. Well, I got a lease." He held up a crumpled piece of paper. "So unless you got a court order, you're trespassing." Evan's small hand tightened around his mother's. He was 8. He understood enough to be scared. "This is our home," Sarah said louder now. "Get out." 2 more people appeared behind the man. A woman with tattoos snaking up her neck. Another man, bigger, arms crossed. "Call the cops if you want," the first man said. "But we're not going anywhere." So she did. Officer Ramirez was sympathetic. That was the worst part, the sympathy in his eyes as he explained why he couldn't help. "Ma'am, this is a civil issue. You'll need to file an eviction notice, go through the courts. It could take weeks, maybe months." "Months?" Sarah's voice cracked. "Where are we supposed to sleep tonight? Do you have family? Friends?" She had a sister in Ohio. Her parents were gone. Her ex-husband wouldn't answer her calls. "We'll figure something out," she whispered. The police left. The squatters locked the door from the inside. Her door, with her furniture, her son's toys, his bed with the spaceship sheets he loved. Sarah sat on the curb with Evan and a single black garbage bag containing 2 changes of clothes, some toiletries, and a stuffed bear named Mr. Buttons. That's all they'd grabbed before the door slammed shut. "Mom." Evan's voice was so small. "Where will we sleep?" She couldn't answer. If she opened her mouth, she'd sob, and she couldn't let him see that. Couldn't let him know how terrified she was, how completely she'd failed to protect him. A light flickered on across the street. Sarah looked up and saw a man standing on his porch, late 50s maybe, graying beard, wearing a leather vest. He was watching them. Just watching. She looked away. She didn't need anyone's pity. At 11:30 p.m., Sarah walked 3 blocks to the 24-hour convenience store, Evan stumbling beside her, half asleep. The cashier was an older woman with kind eyes and a name tag that said Rita. "Can I use your phone?" Sarah asked. "Mine's dead and I need to." Her voice broke. "I need to call someone." "Anyone." Rita came around the counter. "Honey, what happened?" So Sarah told her. About the squatters. The police. The sidewalk. Rita's face hardened. "The house on Maple? The blue one with the porch?" "Yes. I saw a biker watching from across the street earlier. Tall guy, gray beard?" "I think so." Rita nodded slowly. "That's Hawk Dalton. Well, he's not what people think. You go back there, and you ask for his help. You tell him Rita sent you." "A biker?" "Honey, I've lived in this town 40 years. Hawk Dalton is one of the good ones. Maybe the best one. You go talk to him." Sarah had no other options left. "Let me tell you what I saw that night. I'm Hawk Dalton, 52 years old, been riding since I was 17. I've seen a lot in my time. Good things, bad things, things that'd make you lose faith in people altogether. But sitting there on my porch, watching that woman and her boy huddled on the curb with nowhere to go, that hit different. It reminded me of my sister, Linda. 23 years ago, she got pushed out of her apartment by her boyfriend's friends after he died. Left her on the street with my niece, who was 9 at the time. I was in Nevada then, couldn't get to her fast enough. By the time I arrived, she'd spent 4 nights in her car and caught pneumonia. She recovered, but I never forgot that feeling, being too far away when someone I loved needed me. I wasn't too far away this time. When Sarah came walking up my driveway at midnight with that little boy half asleep on his feet, I already knew what I was going to do. "Rita sent me," she said, her voice barely holding together. "She said you might. I don't know. I don't have anywhere else to go." I looked at that boy, same age my niece had been, same scared eyes. "Ma'am," I said, "do you have the deed to that house?" "Yes, in my car. It's parked 2 blocks over." "Get it. Bring it back. I'm making a phone call." She hesitated. "I can't pay you. Nobody's asking you to." I pulled out my phone and called Marcus "Red" Patterson, our regional commander. He answered on the second ring. "Hawk, it's late." "I know. I need you to wake up the chapters. A pause. How many we talking? All of them. Within 100 miles. I need them here by sunrise. What's the situation? I explained it. Quick, clean, no emotion. Facts only. Single mother, squatters, police won't act, child involved. Red was quiet for 3 seconds. Then, send me the address. I'll handle the rest. I hung up and looked at Sarah, who was standing there with tears running down her face. You're not alone tonight, I told her. I need you to trust me. Can you do that? She nodded. Good. Now take your boy inside my house. Guest room's at the top of the stairs. Get some sleep. By morning, things are going to change. Red Patterson had been coordinating rides for 30 years. He knew every club president, every road captain, every prospect worth calling. And he knew how to activate them fast. 12 minutes after my call, phones started lighting up across 5 counties. Jake, Ironside, Miller and Riverside got the text at 12:14 a.m. He was 71 years old, hadn't been on a long ride in 6 months due to a bad hip. He read the message twice, then walked to his garage and fired up his '82 shovelhead. Tommy Chun in Bakersfield was asleep when his phone buzzed. His wife asked what was wrong. He showed her the message. She got up and made him coffee while he got dressed. For a kid, she asked. For a kid and his mom, Tommy said. What kind of man would I be if I didn't go? Deshaun Doc Roberts was an ER surgeon in San Bernardino. He worked a 14-hour shift and was about to collapse into bed when he got the call. He looked at his bike, then his bed, then his bike again. He chose the bike. By 2 a.m., engines were roaring to life in driveways and garages across Southern California. Men pulled on leather vests with patches that told stories, club names, road names, years of service. Some of them hadn't ridden together in years. Some had never met. But they all knew the code. When a child is in trouble, you ride. By 4 a.m., they were forming up at staging points, gas stations, rest stops, parking lots. Small groups becoming large groups, becoming a convoy. By 5:30 a.m., 300 bikers were rolling down Highway 60 towards Sarah's neighborhood, and the sun was just starting to crack the horizon. Evan woke up at 5:45 a.m. to the sound of distant thunder. Mom. He sat up in the unfamiliar bed, disoriented. What's that sound? Sarah was standing at the window, holding the curtain back with one hand. She'd been awake all night, watching the sky lighten, wondering what she'd agreed to by trusting a stranger. The sound grew louder, deeper. Not thunder, engines. Mom, what's happening? She knelt beside him. Evan, honey, I need you to listen to me. Some people are coming to help us get our house back. What people? Bikers. A lot of them. His eyes went wide. Like motorcycle gangs? No, not like that. They're good men. They're here to help. But they look scary. Sarah touched his face. Sometimes the people who look the toughest have the gentlest hearts. You'll see. The sound was overwhelming now, shaking the windows. Hawk knocked on the door. They're here. The first bike turned onto Maple Street at 6:02 a.m. Then another, and another, and another. They kept coming. Chrome glinting in the dawn light. Black leather. American flags. Club patches. Bandanas and beards and sunglasses. Harleys, Indians, Triumphs, vintage choppers, modern cruisers. Every kind of bike you could imagine. They filled the street. Both sides. 300 motorcycles idling in perfect formation, the combined rumble of their engines making the ground vibrate. Windows rattle, car alarms wail. Neighbors came stumbling out onto porches in bathrobes and pajamas, phones already recording. Sarah stood on Hawk's porch with Evan clutched against her, her mouth open in shock. Inside her house, curtains moved. Faces appeared at windows. The squatters were awake now, and they were panicking. Hawk walked down his porch steps and crossed the street. The engines quieted to a low rumble, then to silence. 300 men on 300 bikes, watching one man with a gray beard walk up to a blue house with a stolen lock. He knocked. No answer. He knocked again, harder. Open the door. Now. The door opened a crack. The man from last night, the one with the flat eyes, peered out. Those eyes weren't so flat anymore. They were wide with fear. Yeah. My name's Hawk Dalton. You're in Sarah Miller's house. She has the deed. She has the mortgage papers. She has every legal right to be here, and you have none. Man, we got rights too. No, you don't. You're trespassing. And you're leaving. You can't make us. Hawk turned and looked back at the 300 men behind him. Then he looked at the squatter again and said, very quietly, "Can I?" The man tried to close the door. Hawk's boot stopped it. "We can do this two ways," Hawk said, his voice still calm, still measured. "You can walk out now with your dignity, or you can wait for the police to arrive. And I've already called them, by the way, and you can leave in handcuffs. Your choice." "We got a lease." "No, you've got a fake piece of paper that won't hold up in court for 5 seconds. I know a real lease when I see one." "That's not it." Behind Hawk, 300 men waited in absolute silence. No threats, no shouting, just presence, just the weight of collective will. The woman with the neck tattoos appeared behind the man. "Darius, there's 300 of them. I can see that. They're not leaving. We should go." Darius looked past Hawk at the sea of leather and chrome and bearded faces. His jaw worked. His pride fought with his survival instinct. Survival won. "Fine. We're leaving. But this isn't over." "Yeah," Hawk said. "It is." 20 minutes later, the squatters stumbled out with garbage bags of their own, far more than Sarah and Evan had been allowed to take. They loaded up a beat-up sedan and a pickup truck while the bikers watched in silence. As they drove away, someone in the crowd whistled sharply, a single, piercing note of dismissal. Then Hawk turned to Sarah. "Ma'am, your house is clear. Would you like to go home?" She couldn't speak. She could only nod. Hawk walked through first, checking every room. Others followed. Doc, Ironside, Red, Tommy Chun. They moved carefully, respectfully, documenting everything with phone cameras in case it was needed for court later. The house was trashed. Food wrappers everywhere. Cigarette burns on the furniture. Beer bottles on the kitchen counter. Evan's room had been used as storage. Boxes and random junk piled on his bed. Sarah saw it, and her face crumpled. "We'll fix it," Hawk said simply. And they did. For the next 2 hours, 300 bikers became a cleanup crew. Some swept. Some scrubbed. Some carried trash bags to the curb. Someone brought a locksmith. Someone else brought cleaning supplies. Someone else brought pizza and coffee. Ironside, 71 years old with a bad hip, got down on his hands and knees and scrubbed cigarette stains out of the carpet in Evan's room. Doc replaced the broken lock on the back door and installed new deadbolts on every entrance. Tommy Chun went to the hardware store and came back with paint to cover the marks on the walls. By 9 a.m., the house looked lived in again. Not perfect, but safe. Clean. Theirs. Evan stood in his room, staring at his bed, now cleared off, the sheets washed and remade by a massive biker named Tiny who'd been a Marine and still knew how to make hospital corners. "Can I sleep here tonight?" Evan asked quietly. "Yeah, buddy," Hawk said. "You can sleep here tonight. Every night." Evan turned and wrapped his arms around Hawk's waist, pressing his face into the leather vest. Hawk froze for a second. Then his large, scarred hand came down gently on the boy's head. "You're safe now," Hawk whispered. "You're both safe." By noon, something remarkable had happened. The bikers hadn't left. More kept arriving, some who'd heard late and rode in from farther away. They brought things. A new mattress for Evan because his old one was ruined. Groceries. A big stuffed dinosaur that made Evan's eyes light up. Security cameras for the front and back doors. Motion sensor lights. One biker, a quiet guy named Simon who barely spoke, installed a chain lock and showed Sarah how to use it. "Someone knocks. You can open it this far," he said, demonstrating. "See them first. Always." Another planted flowers in the front yard to replace the ones that had died. Someone else brought a casserole and insisted Sarah put it in the fridge for dinner. "You guys don't have to," Sarah started. "Ma'am," Red said gently, "we know we don't have to. That's why we're doing it." By 2 p.m., the story was everywhere. Neighbors who'd walked past Sarah and Evan on the curb last night now came over with apologies and offerings. Cookies, money, offers to help. Sarah accepted the apologies, but not the money. "Give it to someone else who needs it," she said. A local news crew showed up and tried to interview Hawk. He refused. "We didn't do this for attention. We did it because it was right." But they interviewed others. Ironside, who said, "We take care of our own." And today, she was our own. Tommy Chun, who said, "My daughter's 8 too. What kind of man would I be if I didn't help?" Doc, who said simply, "Everybody needs somebody sometimes." The story went viral. 300 bikers reclaim home for single mother, ran on news sites across the country. The comments were overwhelmingly positive, though some questioned whether the bikers had crossed a line. Hawk saw one of those comments that night and shook his head. The line was crossed when a woman and her kid got thrown out of their own home, he muttered. We just put it back where it belonged. 3 days later, I stopped by to check on Sarah and Evan. The house looked good. Better than good, it looked loved again. Evan's bike was on the porch, flowers blooming in the window boxes, the sound of laughter coming from inside. Sarah answered the door with paint on her hands. She'd been repainting Evan's room, his choice of color this time. Space blue with glow-in-the-dark stars. Hawk, she said, smiling. Really smiling. Come in. We sat on her couch, in her house, and drank coffee. I don't know how to thank you, she said, for what you did, what all of you did. I shook my head. Ma'am, we didn't do anything special. We just showed up when someone needed us. That is special. Most people don't. Maybe, but they should. The world would be a hell of a lot better if more people just showed up for each other. Evan came running in with his new dinosaur, which he'd named Hawk Jr. I laughed, first real laugh I'd had in weeks. As I stood to leave, Sarah touched my arm. You gave us our home back, she whispered. You gave us our lives back. I looked at her, really looked at her. The fear was gone from her eyes. The hopelessness. She looked strong again, like herself again. Ma'am, I said, you never lost it. You just needed someone to stand with you for a minute while you remembered how strong you are. I walked outside where my bike was waiting. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and purple. The street was quiet now. No engines, no crowds. Just a neighborhood settling in for the evening. I started my bike and looked back at that house one more time. Real justice doesn't come from anger, see? It doesn't come from revenge or violence or making someone hurt because you hurt. Real justice comes from showing up. From choosing to stand between a scared child and the world that wants to break him. From being willing to ride 3 hours in the middle of the night because someone you've never met needs help and you've got the power to give it. 300 men rode that morning. Not because we wanted credit. Not because we wanted attention. But because somewhere along the way, we all learned the same truth. Brotherhood isn't about the patches on your vest or the bike you ride. It's about who you become when someone needs you. It's about whether you show up or look away. We chose to show up, and I'd do it again tomorrow. I kicked my bike into gear and rode off into the sunset, the engine rumbling beneath me like a heartbeat. Behind me, a light came on in Evan's window, space blue, with glow-in-the-dark stars. Home. Finally home.